Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
I got to the building at 4:45 a.m. sharp, same as every damn weekday, pushing the cleaning cart down marble floors that looked more expensive than my entire apartment. The mop squeaked loud in the silence, mixing with the smell of lemon cleaner and yesterday's burned coffee. I liked that hour. The place was dead, and for a minute I didn't have to think about bills or lawyers or whether I was screwing up my kid. Roy Jensen, the night guard, shuffled over with his dented thermos and that old Marine Corps ring he always twisted like it gave him a superpower. He grinned at me through his white mustache and said, "You ever go home, Nate?" I gave him a tired chuckle. After I pack Leo's lunch and drop him at school. Then I loop back, finish the 3rd and 4th floors. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. And let's continue. I'm 36, in the part I'm telling you about. I live in Springfield, Missouri, widower. That still feels like a borrowed word. My wife Mia died in a wreck that shouldn't have happened. She borrowed a client's car from the shop she worked at. Rare thing, a '69 Porsche 911S, and got sideswiped by a drunk blowing a red light. She spun out, hit the divider. Gone, just like that. The car's owner, some rich guy named Graham Kincaid, claimed she didn't have permission. The insurance company did what they do, shrugged. His lawyers sent me a demand for damages like I was supposed to eat it and say thank you. $138,400. I still have the letter. Folders in the closet, under the spare sheets. People think men don't break. We do. We just do it quiet. I didn't have time to fall apart. Leo was 4. He needed stability. And I wasn't about to hand him over to Mia's parents, so they could raise him like a porcelain doll and tell him his dad couldn't cope. I counted every dollar. Every minute. Made sure no one could say I wasn't trying. I used to work warehouse until my back gave out 3 winters ago. Slipped disc on a compressor lift. Workers' comp ran out fast, so I picked up janitorial through a contractor, not on payroll. My badge didn't even say my name. Just contractor. I worked under HR's radar, cleaned bathrooms the full-timers refused to touch, and taught myself JavaScript from YouTube videos while Leo slept. After the offices emptied out, I'd steal 30 minutes in a conference room with a donated Chromebook and a slow-ass Wi-Fi signal. I'd bang my head against code until something stuck. Felt like digging out of a snowbank with a spoon. Dana Mercer runs the building. Tall, sharp, and efficient in that way that makes you feel like your whole life is disorganized. Her assistant, Kelsey Vaughn, is the opposite. Pretty, smug, and allergic to eye contact with anyone who carries a mop. If I missed a crumb near her desk, she'd point at it like she was filing a lawsuit. Around 7 that morning, Dana stepped out of a meeting and caught me by the hallway sink. "Spring picnic Saturday," she said, brushing a lock of hair from her face. "You're part of the team, Nate. Bring Leo if you want." I nodded, wiped my hands on my pants. "Thanks, I'll think about it." She smiled, polite, not warm, and walked off. Roy caught me leaning on the mop handle 10 minutes later. I told him what Dana said. "You going?" he asked, tearing foil off his sandwich. "Probably not." "Don't think her assistant wants me near the croissants?" Roy snorted and handed me half his ham and cheese. "Don't give her that power." I took the sandwich, no argument. My phone buzzed. 3 voicemails from Kincaid's lawyer, 2 from Mia's mom about Leo's jacket. I scribbled picnic on a sticky note and slapped it inside my wallet. Told myself I'd show up for an hour, keep to the edges, and vanish before anyone noticed I was there. Saturday came in warm and sticky, like spring had something to prove. The field behind the office building was half mowed and already dotted with folding chairs, juice boxes, and a few corporate pop-up tents pretending this was a real event. Leo shot out the moment we hit the grass, sneakers flinging mud behind him like missiles. He chased a pack of kids toward a slope of green while I hung back by the water table, eyes up but low profile. I didn't talk to anyone unless they spoke first. Didn't hover near the HR tent or the hot dog line. Kept my hands in my jacket pockets and scanned for Leo every minute or two. I don't know if people didn't notice me or if they just didn't care to. Either way, it worked. Dana pulled up half an hour in, running behind in a loose gray tee and jeans that made her look more like a soccer mom than the director of anything. She waved as she jogged past me, smiling like we shared some private joke. "Name tags in the car," she said, and handed off her little boy, Owen, to Kelsey without missing a step. "2 minutes. Can you hold him?" "Of course," Kelsey said without looking, already deep into a conversation with some sales couple whose names I didn't know. She had one hand on her iced coffee, the other flapping around while she laughed at something I'm sure wasn't funny. Her back was to the stroller. 2 minutes passed. Then 3. I caught Owen wriggling out of the stroller straps like a pro. Kid had probably done it 100 times. Kelsey didn't notice. She was laughing louder now, maybe to show off how relaxed she was. Owen slipped out, feet hitting the soft ground, and took off straight toward the tree line. I saw him veer toward a shady maple at the edge of the lot, just past the folding tables. That's when I saw the dog. Looked like a mutt. Dirty fur, ribs poking through its sides, digging into the soil like it was looking for buried treasure. It wasn't anyone's pet. That much was clear. Just a stray that wandered too close to the smell of hot dogs. Owen yelled, "Doggy!" And that's when my stomach dropped. I didn't think. I ran. Closed the space in seconds, but not fast enough. The second Owen reached out, the dog stiffened, ears back, body coiled. I lunged between them just as the dog snapped, grabbed Owen under the arms, swung him up, turned so my back was to the mutt. First bite landed in my calf. Deep, hot, teeth like nails. I grunted and tried to pivot, shield the kid. Second bite hit higher, tore through my sleeve, caught the meat of my forearm. I shouted, not from pain, but because I needed the crowd to snap out of their company picnics and notice we had a damn problem. You ever see a whole field of people freeze? It felt like slow motion for a second. Blank stares. Drinks paused mid-air. Then chaos. 2 guys from facilities sprinted over like linebackers. One of them yelled and threw a water bottle at the dog, who backed off and took off toward the creek at the edge of the lot. Owen started bawling in my arms, not from the bite, I don't think, but from the yelling and sudden noise. Dana got there fast, hair flying behind her. She grabbed Owen, checked him over head to toe. "He's okay," she breathed. Then her eyes dropped to my leg, and her face turned white. Blood was soaking through my jeans at the calf and sleeve. I tried to wave it off, said, "It's fine," but I was lying, and she knew it. "Nope," she snapped, already grabbing my keys from my pocket. "Give me the address. We're not waiting for an ambulance." Next thing I knew, I was in the passenger seat of her SUV, towel wrapped around my leg, Owen buckled in the back, clutching my shirt like a lifeline. Dana was driving like she'd done this before. Tight turns, calm voice, no panic. We hit the ER 10 minutes later. Tetanus booster, rabies protocol, stitches on the forearm, clean line, 10 across. Calf needed a pressure bandage and observation for tendon damage. I gritted my teeth, but my eyes still welled up when the nurse flushed the wounds. Hurt like fire. Dana didn't sit the whole time. Just paced in the corner with Owen asleep on her shoulder. Every 5 minutes she'd say, "Thank you again," like it was on loop. I told her to quit it finally. "He's your kid. You'd have done the same." "Maybe," she said, "but you actually did it. That counts for more." Before we left, Owen reached into his pocket and handed me a little blue plastic dinosaur. Didn't say a word, just placed it in my hand like it was sacred. I kept it for a while, still scratched on the nose. The next day, Dana showed up at my apartment with a cardboard box and a paper bag from a deli. She didn't knock like a guest, just tapped twice and let herself in like we'd known each other 10 years. Inside the box was a navy sport coat, tailored enough to not be cheap, simple enough to not look borrowed. I held it up and said, "I push 'em up, Dana. Where the hell would I even wear something like this?" Owen piped up from behind her, dead serious. "To pizza." I laughed so hard my stitches pulled. First time in a year I'd laughed like that. I didn't mean to. It just happened. It felt good. Weird. Dangerous in that hopeful way I don't let myself lean into. She didn't try to explain the gift, just said, You looked like you needed something that fits. I didn't argue. Look, I'm not some sad sack waiting for a handout. I don't romanticize kindness. I've seen what people do when the lights go off and no one's looking. But something shifted that day. The air between me and Dana got warmer. Not flirty. Not yet. Just real. Like I stopped being part of the background. Someone at work looked me in the eye and saw something more than a uniform and a checklist, and you can call it nothing if you want. But to me, that moment was the start of everything else that followed. Kelsey didn't even hit the brakes. Her car whipped out of the lot like someone lit a fire under it. Leo turned to me in the back seat and said, "She doesn't like noodles, huh?" I just smiled and pulled him in tighter. The next morning felt like an ambush. Half the admin row called out with flu, and the office had that weird, half-quiet vibe like something was waiting to go wrong. I was swapping vacuum bags when Dana appeared behind me, tablet in hand, blazer still half unbuttoned. She tapped the cart and said, "I need a warm body who can listen, print, and not nod like an idiot. Vendor meeting. Can you sit in?" I glanced down at my work shirt. "I can, but I look like I lost a bet." She pulled a windowed envelope from her folder and slid it toward me like she was passing classified documents. "My driver's downstairs. 10 minutes. Wear the jacket," I bolted home, moving faster than I had in months. Showered in 5, yanked a clean button-up from the hanger, and fought my one tie until Leo wandered in with a bowl of cereal and said, "You look like you're choking, Dad." "You're not wrong," I said, and he laughed so hard he sprayed Cheerios. By the time I got back, the vendors were already setting up in the 10th floor boardroom, laptops out, binders open, one of them asking for Wi-Fi like this was their house. I took the far seat, 2 legal pads in front of me, pen in hand like I belonged. I didn't say a word for the first 20 minutes. Just listened. Watched. They smiled too much, kept calling each other partner like they were already celebrating. The numbers on page 6 looked better than they should have. Data ownership section felt light, a little too forgiving for a contract this size. I found it buried in the legalese, clause 7.4. Something about perpetual derivative rights post-termination. I knew enough to know that meant they could take anything we built together and keep it. Forever. Even if the deal ended. I didn't talk. Didn't raise a hand. Just wrote on a sticky note. Clause 7.4 grants them perpetual derivative rights even after term. Triggers with any pilot. Slid it across to Dana like we were back in 10th grade and I was passing a cheat sheet. She read it, blinked once and asked, dead calm, "Can we pause? There's a clause here I want to revisit." 7.4. What's the scope of derivative use? And does it extend post-termination? You could feel the mood shift in the room. The vendors looked at each other. One of their lawyers cleared his throat and said, "It's boilerplate language. Pretty standard for these kinds of agreements." "That's the line you use when it's not standard," Dana replied without blinking. They offered to strike it. Then 2 pages later, one of them slid in a mirror clause with slightly tweaked phrasing. Dana caught that too. Shut it down with a smile that could have sliced glass. After the meeting, she pulled me aside in the hallway, between the vending machine and the finance office. "How'd you see that?" she asked. I shrugged. "I read a lot of contracts online, forums, tutorials. I need to train my brain for something that pays more than bleach and wax." She didn't say anything for a beat. Just nodded like she was filing something away. Then, "Grab dinner with me and Owen tonight?" "As a thank you. I have to get Leo from aftercare by 5:30. Then we grab both kids. Cheap noodles. No place with cloth napkins. 20 minutes. We hit a strip mall joint around 6. No menus, just a wall board with specials and a lady behind the counter who looked like she'd been there since Reagan. Dana ordered fast and threw in a second soda before I could say no. Leo and Owen devoured lo mein like it was a race. My stitches still ached, and Owen poked at them twice before Leo leaned over and whispered, "You have to be gentle." My dad's a superhero, but a tired one. Dana smiled at that. One of those quiet smiles that said more than it showed. Walking back to the car, I saw Kelsey's vehicle sitting near the curb. Engine running. windows up. She was staring straight ahead, hands white-knuckled on the wheel. Then she looked over, eyes flicking to the boys, then me in the jacket, and floored it out of the lot like she'd just lost something important. I kept quiet, but my pulse ticked up. She'd seen too much, and I'd seen that kind of look before, cornered and calculating. The next day, I was back to pushing a mop, but something felt different. Like a door cracked open. Dana passed me in the hallway, handed me a file folder, and said, "Can you proof the internal notes section? Just curious if anything stands out." It wasn't flirty, wasn't condescending, just respectful. I took the folder, flipped through it that night after Leo went to sleep, and found 2 inconsistent data points on vendor timelines. Wrote a short note, stapled it to the back, and handed it to her the next morning. "You're fast," she said, flipping through it. "You see patterns." "I've been broke long enough to know where people hide things," I said, "especially in ink." Later that week, Dana handed me a recycled folder from another meeting, said, "If you ever want a real seat at the table, keep doing this." Quietly, so I did. No LinkedIn, no title change. Just me in my borrowed sport coat, holding the line with a pen and 2 ears, watching every page for cracks. I walked straight from the locker to the break room and stared at the vending machine like it might tell me what to do. My head wasn't in cleaning mode anymore. It was in threat assessment mode, new numbers, new angles, and a familiar voice in my head reminding me I didn't have room to blink. When I got home that night, Leo was already asleep. Mrs. Alvarez from next door had made him grilled cheese and left a note saying he asked twice if I was okay. I stepped over a stack of bills and found a red stamped envelope on the floor just inside the door. No return address, just sharp edges and an expensive smell. I opened it with a steak knife. Final demand, $141,900. Now with storage and valuation fees, as if parking a totaled car in a climate-controlled garage made this circus more legitimate. I called the number right then. Got some junior associate who sounded like he just passed the bar last week. I said, "She was hit by a drunk driver. At a red light. You know that, right?" He replied like he was reading from a laminated script. "Our client's vehicle was not insured for non-owner operators, Mr. Barrett, and it was being operated without permission. Liability remains unchanged." I didn't even hang up. Just let the silence do it for me. 5 minutes later, voicemail pinged. Bev, my mother-in-law, perfectly pleasant, tightly worded. "Just checking in, Nathan. We know you've been under pressure lately. Arthur and I were wondering if the financial situation becomes unstable, whether it might be in Leo's best interest to spend some time with stable family. Just until things are calm." She called it just until, like it was a weekend sleepover, not a legal ambush. 2 more messages followed over the next day. All polite, all aimed just under the ribs. I didn't respond. I started writing everything down. Voicemail timestamps, word-for-word transcripts, dates. Any time they said Leo's name in relation to what's best. And I booked a legal aid consult. Earliest available? 21 days out. I circled it on the calendar like a finish line, even though I knew it wasn't. That same night, after his shift, Roy knocked on my door with a 6-pack in one hand and a bag of gas station pretzels in the other. He didn't say anything for the first 2 minutes. Just opened a beer and waited. When I finally said, "They want custody," he nodded once like he'd already guessed it. "2 fronts," he said. "Money and custody. You stay steady on both. We stack paper, stay boring. Don't blink." He'd been married 33 years before his wife died of cancer. Said he survived it by keeping lists and not answering bait. I believed him. That week, I pulled 2 freelance gigs off a buried message board. One guy needed junk HTML cleaned out of a broken site, and another wanted a spreadsheet macro built to sort price sheets. Total haul? $120. Took me 4 hours, but it switched something in me from stuck to moving. That night, I slept 2 hours straight for the first time in a week. Tuesday afternoon, Dana caught me in the stairwell between 6th and 7th floors. She didn't bother with small talk. Just said, "You should know something. Kincaid has money in this company. Not voting shares, but he's on a strategic advisory panel. Non-fiduciary, but the board listens when he calls." My stomach dropped about an inch. So he could influence my job? She shrugged, but her eyes were locked on mine. He has pull, not power. Important difference. That was twist number one I didn't need, but I appreciated her telling me. I said, "Thanks for being straight with me." "I'd want someone to tell me," she said, then kept walking. Around 4:30, I went to grab my stuff and found my locker code didn't work. Tried it twice. The keypad flashed red both times. Roy opened it with a master key, but the metal door swung open to nothing. My extra shirt, my mug, gone. Kelsey strolled by like she'd rehearsed the timing. "We rotated codes for safety," she said, smiling like someone just handed her a promotion. "You'll get a new one soon." I didn't say anything. I just wrote it down. Time, 4:37 p.m. Took a photo of the empty locker and texted it to myself with a subject line that read, "Record." Back at home, Leo was on the floor building a Lego tank that looked like it could roll through a wall. He said, "Dad, why do bad guys always smile?" I sat down next to him and said, "Because they think no one's watching." Wednesday, Bev called again and said she was just following up on our earlier conversation. I didn't answer. I wrote it down. Roy showed up again with fried chicken this time, no six-pack, just a bag of receipts from his wife's old manila cabinet. "I got templates for visitation agreements and debt restructuring in here," he said, tapping the bag. "You pick what you need." I asked him, "You really think they'd try to take Leo?" He looked at me like I was slow. "They don't think they're stealing him. They think they're saving him." The following morning, I got to the building early, pushed the mop cart like usual, but I kept stopping to check corners. I wasn't being paranoid. I was mapping patterns. Kelsey's voice echoing from the HR wing. Dana's door staying shut longer than usual. People going quiet when I passed. At lunch I sat outside instead of the break room. Air tasted like dust, but at least it was mine. I opened the legal aid packet and reread the intake questions. Any history of mental health episodes? Any documented threats? Any criminal charges or open investigations? I had none of that. Just debt. Just grief. Just a target on my back because I saw one clause in a contract no one else noticed. The rich guy behind the curtain had lawyers on retainer, and my wife's death listed as unauthorized operation. And now he had fingers inside the company I cleaned every day. But I still had a nameplate. Still had Leo. Still had Roy's voice in my ear telling me boring wins. I didn't know how, not yet, but I planned to make that true. After Dana's voice faded down the hallway, I stood there like someone had paused the movie. Grocery bag on the counter. Wildflowers half in water, half flopped on the cutting board. My son laughing in the other room with a man I thought hated me 2 days ago. The folder Bev brought sat in the middle of the table like a lit fuse. I didn't open it. I didn't touch it. I just stared. The HR email had landed at 6:18 that morning. Subject line clean, cold. Administrative leave pending inquiry into boundary issues with management personnel. I stared at it so long my screen dimmed. Tapped it once to keep it alive like that would change what it said. I walked Leo to school like normal. Held his hand, fixed the strap on his lunchbox. Told him nothing. He's 5. He deserves cartoons and apples and a bedtime without adult garbage creeping in through the seams. Back home I tried to clean. Mopped the same tile twice. Rearranged bills I already knew I couldn't pay yet. Roy's usual check-in didn't come. No thermos on his desk. No ring. I called once. Didn't leave a message. At 10:03 a blocked number rang. Woman's voice. Rehearsed. "Mr. Barrett, we'd prefer you not come on site until Friday. Not disciplinary. Just until the audit's preliminary notes are reviewed." "Not disciplinary," I repeated, half to her, half to myself. She added, "We'll follow up formally by email," and hung up before I could ask what formally meant. At 2:08, someone knocked. I opened the door and saw Dana standing there holding a grocery bag, like it was armor and a bundle of wildflowers that looked like she picked them on the walkover. Not store perfect. Roadside real. Behind her was Roy, steadying Arthur, my father-in-law, on the last step like it was just another Thursday. Dana stepped inside without asking. "Bring him in," she said, her voice low and no trace of performance. No clipboard, no agenda, just a woman who didn't flinch. Arthur didn't speak at first, just opened his arms and said, "Where's my grandson?" Leo ran down the hallway and wrapped himself around Arthur's leg like it was Christmas morning. I didn't know whether to be pissed or relieved, so I just kept breathing. Bev followed a moment later, expression sharp, folder in hand. Her courtroom face, I used to call it. Like everything she looked at had a moral weight. Dana poured coffee in mugs that didn't match. She didn't sit down until everyone else did. "Kelsey filed a complaint," she said. "Claims your presence in admin spaces after hours made her uncomfortable." She CC'd Kincaid's counsel on the message. My ears burned, but I didn't interrupt. Dana continued, calm but pointed. "I've asked for a third-party HR auditor to review her claim. They're coming Friday. I want it clean and on paper." Bev folded her hands over the folder. "That's serious." Dana looked right at her. "Yes, which is why I'm also calling it what it is. Strange timing, weaponized discomfort, and a convenient escalation after my team invited him into those spaces. That's why I brought someone in." She turned to me. "Her name's Carla Ruiz. Pro bono counsel. She's a bulldog, and she already filed notice of representation against Kincaid's demand letter. She's taking your case. That was the first time my knees felt weak all week." Dana added, "And I didn't invite Arthur and Bev here to gang up on you. I asked them to come so we could talk like adults about Leo. Not through voicemails. Not under threats I didn't know whether to sit or stand. So I did both wrong. Perched half on a stool, elbows on my knees, eyes jumping between them all like I was on trial." Arthur leaned forward, hands folded like a preacher before the altar call. "We were scared you were drowning, Nathan. You've been under pressure, and we only heard bits and pieces. Doesn't mean we want to take our grandson as punishment." Bev opened the folder and slid a page toward Dana. "This is what we had. He's working nights, alone, tired. Accidents happen. Kids get missed." Dana nodded and pulled out her own folder, one I didn't even know she had with her. Inside were 3 things. Leo's school calendar, a list of sitter payments with receipts I'd kept, and a spreadsheet I made with every shift I worked. Color-coded. "Every late night matches school holidays or sitter overtimes," Dana said. "He's not ditching care. He's juggling it." Bev didn't say anything right away, just tapped one receipt like she was checking for a forgery. Her face softened. Not a full apology, but the tension dropped by half. Arthur said, "You should have told us you were freelancing too." "I don't owe you my schedule," I said, quieter than I expected. "But I'll give it to you if it helps Leo." They nodded. Not yes, not no. Just a nod that left the door cracked. The part that really turned my head came next. Roy, quiet the whole time, leaned back and said, "I served with Dana's dad in '85. Marines. Okinawa. He was a hard ass. Good man." Dana smiled at the mention but stayed out of it. Roy looked at me. "I told her to hire someone who keeps his head down and shows up. Someone who doesn't talk until it matters." She asked if I knew a guy. I said, "Yeah. I know a guy." Bev blinked like she was recalibrating the entire image she had of me. Arthur stood and went to get Leo, who was sitting cross-legged behind the couch watching Paw Patrol like nothing in the world was on fire. When they came back, Arthur said, "If this woman's fighting for you in front of her own bosses and this man," he gestured to Roy, "says you're worth betting on, then we can hold off the custody talk." For now landed like a rock, but I'll take a maybe over a no any day. When they left, Dana stayed behind and helped clean up the coffee mugs without asking. She didn't say much, but before she walked out the door, she paused. If you want to keep the jacket, she said, you're going to need to find some place to wear it again. I nodded, throat tight. I'm working on it. She smiled. Good. We're not done yet. When the door closed, Leo came over and handed me the dinosaur Owen had given me. He said, "You can hold it tonight if you want." I'd passed it to him the week after the ER. I sat on the floor and held it in my palm like a borrowed trophy. Whatever was coming next, I wasn't walking into it alone. I didn't fall asleep that night. Just sat on the edge of the couch with Leo's dinosaur still on the coffee table, and the last thing Dana said ringing in my head. You're going to need to find some place to wear it again. The next morning, I put on jeans that didn't smell like bleach and caught the 9:40 bus to a strip mall just off Glenstone Avenue. Sandwiched between a check-cashing place and a dentist with peeling window tint was a small glass door that read RUIZ and RICHTER PROBONOADVOCACY services. Inside, everything smelled like toner and burnt coffee. Carla Ruiz stood when I walked in. Late 40s, sharp red blazer, ponytail pulled tight like she didn't have time for frizz or excuses. She didn't shake hands, just motioned for me to sit, and opened a legal pad like we were already behind. Start from the beginning, she said. Not the middle. Not what you think I want. Give me all of it. So I did. I told her about Mia. The night she borrowed that Porsche. The drunk driver who clipped her at the light. The letter with 6 digits and 0 sympathy. I told her about Kincaid's so-called advisory panel, about the emails from HR, the dog bite, the jacket, even the noodles. She didn't blink once, just kept writing like a court reporter. When I finally stopped, she asked one thing. Was Kincaid in the car the night of the crash? I don't know, I said. No proof. Just gut. She nodded. Then we start with records. Traffic cams. 911 logs. Tow yard intake. If the Porsche was being driven without permission, they'll have to prove it. And if we can prove he was there, it kills their leverage. She filed a state public records request that afternoon. Told me it could take a week. Maybe more. Until then, she said, you keep your head down, your mouth shut, and your folder growing. Got it? Loud and clear, I said. At the office, Dana kept things quiet. HR was still chewing on their own tail, but she looped me into a side project on the sly. Internal web form used by the ops team, clunky as hell, and crashed on mobile. Can you poke at it? She asked one morning. See if it's salvageable. I rewrote a tiny piece of the JavaScript, tested it 3 ways, and it shaved about a dozen clicks off every submission. 4 people emailed her thank yous. She paid me from a line item marked Team Flex Hours. Logged like a hawk, 0 exposure. Then Thursday hit, and Kelsey came back. You ever hear someone try to fake a sick voice and overshoot it? She sounded like a broken radio trying to find a station. I was restocking the janitorial cart when I noticed it wasn't where I'd left it. Someone had moved it to a secondary closet on the 3rd floor near the loading dock, nowhere near my usual route. Taped to the front was a yellow post-it, neat handwriting. Temporary. No name, no explanation. I took a picture, time-stamped it, filed it in the same folder as the locker photo. My revenge wasn't yelling. It was records. I let other people shout and spin stories. I built timelines. Friday. The HR auditor arrived. Denise, mid-50s, navy skirt suit, no nonsense. We sat in a cold meeting room while she clicked her pen like a metronome. I'm going to ask direct questions, she said, and I want direct answers. Good, I said. That's how I live. She flipped to the first page. Why were you in admin spaces during off hours? I opened my notebook, slid it forward. Spiral bound. Dates, times, task lists. On top of it was a printed calendar invite Dana had sent me when the flu hit the admin row. She picked it off the table like she already knew what it was. I see, she said, then added, You've been documenting everything? From the moment things stopped making sense, I said. She looked at me for a beat longer than felt casual, then nodded and kept going. After the meeting, I found Dana in the stairwell, sitting with a folder on her lap and 2 phones next to her, one personal, one work. She looked exhausted but still managed half a smile. "How'd it go?" she asked. "Like I was reading numbers," I said. "Which I was." She stood, stretched her back and said, "You free Tuesday morning?" "Far as I know." "Cybersecurity vendor call. I want you on it, quietly." "Same setup. Why me?" I asked. "You see things," she said. "You don't just watch. You catch the cracks." She said it like someone handing you a wrench that fits your hand better than it should. That night, Leo crawled into my lap wearing one sock and a superhero cape he made from an old pillowcase. He passed out mid-sentence telling me about a dream where he fought a sea monster with noodles. I didn't move him. Didn't check email. Just watched the light dim through the blinds and opened a tutorial on API endpoints on my phone. I didn't absorb half of it, but I kept the screen on anyway. Sometimes the quiet is the work. 8 days later, I was heading to the bus stop when my phone buzzed. Carla. "Got it," she said before I even said hello. "Traffic cam. Westview and 12th. Time stamped 7 minutes before the crash." She paused, then delivered the line like a dagger. Kincaid was in the passenger seat. I stopped walking, just stood there with people passing me like I was furniture. She continued, "That car left a private event. We've got the footage. If his story is unauthorized use, he'll need a new one." I didn't say anything. I just smiled. And then I kept walking. The courthouse smelled like floor wax and stale air, like nobody ever opened a damn window. Security took forever. The guard waved me through with barely a glance at my ID, but I still felt like I didn't belong. Like someone was going to tap me on the shoulder and say, "Sorry, janitors don't testify." The jacket fit snug around the shoulders, still stiff from the dry cleaner, but it did its job. Made me feel like I wasn't bleeding out anymore. Not bragging, just standing straight. It was raining hard when I walked in. Sideways rain, soaking cuffs, everyone tracking puddles through the front entrance. I sat near the back of the small family courtroom, fingers tied around a manila folder that held Leo's school calendar, Mrs. Alvarez's sitter invoices, and a copy of my lease. Nothing heroic, just proof. Bev walked in wearing navy and pearls like she was testifying in front of Congress. Arthur followed, tie slightly crooked, face stiff like he'd rather be anywhere else. Carla leaned in toward me and said, "Relax your hands." Judges noticed clenched fists. I hadn't realized I was gripping the folder like it owed me money. The judge was a woman in her 60s. Sharp eyes, deadpan tone. She didn't smile much. Didn't have to. Carla handled the opening. Voice calm, almost bored. She walked through everything with clinical rhythm. "Mr. Barrett has stable housing, no pending charges, full-time childcare support, and documented efforts toward professional advancement." She laid out pay stubs, school records, sitter receipts, everything. Bev's attorney raised a hand. "Your Honor, we acknowledge Mr. Barrett's effort, but there are concerns about his recent administrative leave and whether that introduces risk to the child." Before Carla could speak, Dana stood up from the back row like she hadn't been sitting in silence for 20 minutes. "I requested that Mr. Barrett assist our operations team during a staffing crisis," she said, clear and loud. "He did so with professionalism and competence. He was placed on administrative leave due to an internal complaint that was fully reviewed. Bev's attorney tried to cut in, but the judge held up a hand." Dana continued, "The auditor found no misconduct, no boundary issues, and no cause for concern regarding his presence in any administrative area." Carla stepped forward, handed over Denise's preliminary HR report. The judge skimmed it in silence. Roy spoke next. He stood slowly, hands in his pockets like he was talking to an old friend, not a judge. "Your Honor," he said, "I've worked alongside Nathan for over a year now. He's boring in all the right ways. Shows up, does the work, keeps to himself. That's rare these days." That line made the judge smile, small, quick, but real. Bev looked at me from across the aisle. Her face wasn't sharp anymore, just tired. She mouthed, "Sorry." I nodded. Didn't need to say anything. She's Leo's grandma. I get it. We walked out with no surprises, no explosions, just the ruling we needed. Leo stays with me. Grandparents get structured visits, review in 90 days. I called it a win, not because I beat anyone, but because we stopped the bleeding before it hit an artery. That afternoon, Carla called while I was walking to grab Leo from school. Her voice was tighter than usual. Kincaid's legal team just declined to produce the internal emails we requested, she said. I stopped mid-step. Can they do that? They can delay, stall, bluff. But it's not a good look. We're filing subpoenas tomorrow. The venue, the valet service, the tow yard. People talk when they're not being paid to shut up. I didn't ask what came next. She'd already hung up. That night, I was rinsing dishes when my phone buzzed. Unlisted sender. One line. Stop digging or the cleaning contract goes away. No name, no timestamp, no callback number. Just the kind of message that knows you don't need to guess who sent it. I took a breath, walked to the printer, and hit print before anything disappeared. Then I forwarded it to Carla and Dana with the subject line, Threat, 9:42 p.m. Keeping copy. Then I turned off the Wi-Fi and sat on the edge of the bed while Leo brushed his teeth, humming the theme from whatever cartoon was stuck in his brain this week. Carla called again 20 minutes later. File a police report. Keep it simple, but file it. Then send me the full email headers. We want IP addresses. Metadata doesn't lie. I did exactly that. Walked down to the precinct on 9th and filled out a basic harassment report. Brought a thumb drive with the email file. Printed 2 copies of the submission. The guy behind the desk barely looked up, but that wasn't the point. Paper doesn't disappear when someone hits a switch. Back home, Leo was already asleep, sock half off, arms flung out like a snow angel. I sat on the floor next to his bed, back against the wall, feet flat on the carpet. And I told myself, out loud, like a soldier reading orders, we keep the line. We don't pick street fights. We wait. The carpet in that boardroom was too soft, like they were trying to muffle every mistake that ever got made in there. I stayed near the glass wall, laptop open but idle, hands loose and ready in case someone needed me to troubleshoot a cable or grab a printout. Just another body in the background. That's what I wanted them to think. The meeting was supposed to be a simple cybersecurity vendor call. 20 minutes, in and out, but 2 board members happened to be in the building, which meant the whole thing mutated into a full-blown quarterly review. Kelsey rolled in like it was opening night, and she had top billing. Hair curled just right, smile loaded. She pushed a cart stacked with binders and set a spiral-bound deck down like it was a holy document. Operational efficiencies. The front page had screenshots from the form script I'd written for Dana. My code, my layout, even my test data. She started talking like it was her idea. In response to the staffing disruptions, I streamlined several internal forms, and so on. I didn't interrupt. I just raised my phone, took a clean photo of the cover page, and time-stamped it. Dana let her go, asked 1 or 2 polite questions that made it seem like she was engaging, then leaned back, gave Kelsey the space to take her victory lap. A minute later, the door opened, and in walked Graham Kincaid like he hadn't just tried to muscle me out of a job through a no-name threat. He wore a sport coat that probably cost more than the car I used to drive before the accident. Walked to the head of the table like it was built for him. Thought I'd sit in, he said, and no one told him not to. The meeting moved on. First slide after intros was a risk analysis. One of the board members asked about audit trails, and Dana handled it without blinking. She knew her stuff. That's what made what happened next hit harder. Kincaid leaned forward like he was casually throwing in a question. I've been told there's a janitorial contractor engaging in scope creep, accessing admin areas, systems, and confidential materials during off hours. I didn't react. My chest burned, but I didn't flinch. Dana answered before anyone else could breathe. We invited Mr. Barrett to assist during a documented staffing shortage. His contributions were tracked, supervised, and logged. We also don't attribute his work to anyone else's resume. She tapped the binder in front of her. Clean, black, no frills. And we don't welcome threats to employees under administrative review. Kelsey tried to jump in. I never... Dana lifted one hand without even looking at her, flipped open a folder I didn't know she had, and read aloud. If we push him out of admin, the problem solves itself. Sent at 6:02 a.m., the Friday after Kincaid's legal team got the HR complaint. The room turned quiet in the way that only happens when everyone knows exactly what just hit the floor. Denise, the HR auditor, cleared her throat and said, "We've concluded our review." She flipped to the final page in her file. There was no misconduct by Mr. Barrett, however. We found evidence of retaliatory coordination from Miss Vaughn. We've recommended corrective action. Kelsey's face didn't fall. It just froze, like she got unplugged. She sat down fast, hands gripping her binder like she thought she could still rewind the meeting. Dana didn't gloat, didn't pause. Instead, she turned toward me and said, "Nathan, you spotted something in the vendor contract last week. Can you walk the board through it?" It was the clause I'd flagged, buried rights transfer with vague end conditions. I kept it to 3 sentences. Short, sharp. One board member looked over his glasses and asked, "Where'd you learn to read contracts like that?" I said, "After my son goes to bed." He chuckled, just once. Sounded like someone who remembered what it felt like to pay a bill late. Dana had planned for more. Carla walked in next, late by design. Clipboard in one hand, manila envelope in the other. She signed the NDA at reception, totally above board. Without even sitting down, she pulled out a printed photo and laid it on the table. Traffic cam still. Porsche 911S. Kincaid in the passenger seat. Time stamped 7 minutes before the crash that killed my wife. She didn't raise her voice, didn't look at Kincaid. Your legal team claimed the driver had no permission. Would you care to explain your presence during this unauthorized use? Kincaid's face flushed, then cooled. This is not the forum for that conversation. Carla smiled. No, it's not. That would be the courtroom. But since you showed up today to publicly raise questions about my client's employment, consider this a courtesy preview. Nobody spoke, not even the board members. No one wanted to be the first to move. Dana stood, closed her binder and said, "We're done here." Kelsey scrambled to collect her things. Her hands shook so bad the binders knocked together like dominoes. Kincaid walked out without a glance in my direction, and I counted that as the closest thing he'd give to respect. After everyone cleared out, Dana stayed behind. She handed me a copy of a reimbursement form Kelsey had submitted for a hotel stay the same weekend she claimed to be sick. Dana didn't sound angry, just tired. "Audit will handle it," she said. "You don't have to swing to win." I nodded, slid the form into my folder, and said nothing. In the hallway, Roy was leaning against the wall like he'd been there since sunrise. "Told you," he said, pressing a peppermint into my palm. Boring wins. I laughed harder than I should have. Maybe it was adrenaline. Maybe relief. I didn't care. The taste of peppermint burned clean. Carla called me just before lunch, said, "We've got language they'll choke down. No admission of fault, no future claims beyond the accident, and a mutual release that shuts them up for good." They flinched at employment matters, but I held the line. 3 drafts and a lot of red pen later, it was done. I signed it with Leo's drawing magnets holding the pages flat on the fridge. Ink met paper. Quietly. No headlines. No lawsuits. Just a door finally closing behind me. Kincaid's lawyers stopped calling after that. No more letters. No more red stamps. Just silence. The kind you earn, not the kind you beg for. A week later, Dana asked if I wanted something permanent. Not flashy, just real. "Half-time facilities, half junior ops coordinator while you train," she said. "We'll make it official." I looked at the new badge before I even put it on. No more contractor sticker, just my name. Real laminate, real title. The raise wasn't big, but it felt like someone flipped the world upright for a minute. I could keep Leo in aftercare without bargaining for extensions. Could pay Mrs. Alvarez on time. Could pick up a second-hand bike and not wonder if groceries had to wait. Kelsey got moved to another department. HR used the phrase team fit realignment, which is the nicest way I've ever heard. You burned the wrong bridge. We passed in the lobby once. She didn't look at me. I didn't look at her. Some fires die faster if you don't blow on the ashes. Dana pulled me aside the day after my badge changed. You can still mop floors if you want, she said, but you don't have to anymore. I didn't say anything, just nodded. We moved out of the walk-up a few weeks after that. Too much noise, too many cracks in the ceiling. I found a duplex 15 blocks from Leo's school. Small yard, washer in unit, no broken intercom. Dana offered the cottage behind her place, out by the woods, with ivy curling around the porch railings like something out of a picture book. Said it was sitting empty. If it's a gift, I can't take it, I told her. Then pay me what you can, she said. First of the month, like a man should. I did. Every month, envelope sealed, handed off without comment. Felt better that way. Roy retired that summer, bought a dented aluminum fishing boat with his brother, sent me pictures of catfish that all looked exactly the same. Gray, long, dumb eyes. Every Saturday, he showed up with gas station donuts and a new story. That one island off Key Largo, he said to Leo one morning, doesn't even show up on maps. Locals won't talk about it. Leo's eyes went wide. Really? Roy laughed. Nope. Don't write that down for school, kid. I kept the jacket. Wore it to parent night at Leo's school and to sign my first internal contract. A simple tool Dana let me build with oversight. Scripted report formatting. Automated error flags. Not groundbreaking, not glamorous. But it worked. It held. Solid. Like a good stud behind drywall. Some days I still started early, walking halls before the building filled up. Other days I stayed late, buried in JavaScript while Leo drew superheroes in the next room. The mop stayed in the closet, but I still knew where it was. I didn't rush things with Dana. Didn't need to. We had pizza with the boys now and then. Her place, mine, didn't matter. Sometimes Owen would fall asleep on our couch, shoes on, marker on his face. Sometimes Leo would chase him barefoot through her kitchen, yelling about who broke the robot. When we didn't see each other, we waved from down hallways, like two adults doing the same job in the same storm. We weren't trying to build something perfect. We were just building something that held. I'm telling this now from a chair that creaks every time I lean left, at a laminate table covered in scuff marks and bills I don't panic over anymore. Leo's on the couch behind me, one sock on, head buried in algebra. Says it's easy, but he still groans loud enough for the neighbors to hear when he messes up a problem. He's taller than me now, voice deeper, shoulders broad, still keeps that plastic dinosaur I passed down to him, tucked in the top drawer of his desk, like it's a secret he doesn't want to outgrow. I'm older than the man I've spent this whole time describing, which is the only way I can talk about him without flinching. Back then, everything felt like falling through drywall, fast, jagged, and loud. But now it just feels like something I got through. Not better, not healed, just through. People like neat stories. They want a clean arc. Sad man. Brave act. Big break. Doesn't work like that. Real life's got dents. Corners you bruise your hip on every day. I didn't jump in front of that dog to look good at work. I did it because a kid screamed, and my body moved before my brain had time to remind me what Kincaid's lawyers were saying. That jacket Dana gave me, it didn't transform me, wasn't magic. It just let me walk into a room not smelling like bleach. And you'd be amazed how different people treat you when you don't smell like ammonia. That little script I wrote didn't make me a genius. Just meant the hours I stole from sleep had somewhere to land. Getting suspended? Yeah, it messed me up for a minute. But I didn't break because we didn't panic. We kept paper. We kept our mouths shut. We waited while the people who lie for sport showed their tells. My kind of revenge isn't loud. It's time-stamped. It's folders. It's the look on someone's face when their own words come back printed and stapled. Dana never tried to fix me, never asked for anything but the truth, and I gave it to her, one piece at a time. If you're looking for the romance story, it's this. We built something off fights and pickup schedules. No fireworks, just presents, just two people showing up, even when it was boring. Roy's still Roy. Comes by sometimes with a peppermint for Leo, and some story about catching sea bass near an island he swears is off every map. Then he looks at me and goes, "Don't put that in school, kid." I think he misses the old routine more than he admits, but I owe him more than he'll ever let me say. His voice kept me from doing something dumb when things got hot. Told me to stay boring, and it saved me. Kelsey? I don't hate her. I don't think about her. Once in a while her name floats by, attached to a new title and a different boss. I hope she found a place where she doesn't have to trip people just to feel tall. And Kincaid? He stayed rich. If that burns you, join the club. He signed the release. He sat through that boardroom while Carla dropped the photo on the table and didn't say a word. That wasn't public justice, but it was enough. Leo remembers peppermints and school projects, not lawsuits, not stitches, not the blood in my sock or the way I limped to the ER, and I'm good with that. Kids should remember small kindnesses and late-night cartoons, not courtrooms and contracts. If there's a lesson here, it's this. Men break and still keep going. You can feel like the world's trying to make you small and still stand up in the room. You don't have to win big. You don't have to win loud. You just need a spine, a file folder, and one person who says your name like it belongs. When pressure turns into threats, do you build a paper trail or back off? Comment below. And please like and subscribe. It's vital for us. One click for you.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.